The Girl with a Mind for Math. The Story of Raye Montague, written by Julia Finley Mosca. The Girl with a Mind for Math. If there's something you want, but it seems out of reach, here's a story for you. A great truth it will teach. When you focus your mind, you'll succeed through and through, like one bold engineer by the name Montague. In a state we call Arkansas, one winter day, a baby was welcomed, a girl they called Raye. She was bright as a star, super smart from the start. She was headstrong, this child, and not faint of heart. Yes, this girl had potential. Her granddad was proud. He told her, "Work hard, you'll stand out from the crowd." Then something she'd cherish when Raye was just 7. He took her to see her first ship. It was heaven. A real submarine. Her eyes opened wide. "Who made it?" she asked as they followed the guide. "Engineers," said the man, giving Raye's head a pat. "But my dear, you don't need to know all about that." At the time the man's insult went over her head. "No, you can't," were the words he had meant but not said. Engineering, thought Raye, and her life's dream began. Except most people laughed when she told them her plan. "Stay strong," said her mom. "Use your brains, you'll be fine. There will always be people who pay you no mind, just because you're a girl and because you are black. Don't let them or the state of your school hold you back." You see, schools in those days were what's called segregated. The black and white students were kept separated. "What's wrong?" you exclaim. It was dismal, no fooling, and worst of all, white kids received better schooling. But Raye studied hard. She had grit, taught herself. She was gifted in math and read books by the shelf. When the time came for college, she knew what to choose. She learned to build boats, but she got some bad news. Engineering's not taught to black students, they said. Her heart hit the floor. "I'll take business instead." She'd learn what she could, and she'd learn the rest later. Their rules were unjust, but that school wouldn't break her. Raye finished with honors. Oh boy, what a smarty! She said her farewells. There was no time to party. "I'm off to a plane filled with history's greats, the capital city of all 50 states." Now, finding a job, it turned out that took time. She looked and she looked. Raye was not one to whine. Then it must have been fate. At least that's what it seems. She was hired to type where they built submarines. The Navy. That's right. Oh, but hold all your cheers. She designed what only for trained engineers. Shipping design was only for trained engineers. Ugh. So she watched as they worked and she learned every task, even studied computers by night in a class. Then her big break arrived. The whole staff got the flu. Raye did all of her work and the engineers too. Her boss was in shock. Huh, huh, how? He exploded. From memory, said Raye. And with that, got promoted. Life should have been swell. Yet that wasn't the case. Her boss treated her poorly because of her race. Many people, like him, tried to make her feel small. Raye just held her head high and she outworked them all. What next? From the White House, there came a command. The president ordered a ship, make it grand. And quickly he added, well, that didn't fly. All those plans would take engineers months to supply. Here's the thing about that. When designing a boat, there are thousands of measurements one needs to note. All of those numbers take math, and that takes some time. Oh, but Raye had been working on something sublime. She took a deep breath. I can solve this, she said. I've come up with a system to do it instead. I'll draw the plans faster, she told them. Don't fret. I'll design the first ship by computer. No sweat. How long do you think that might take? What's your guess? Would it take her a month? Maybe weeks for success. Well, it took calculations and tons of caffeine, but Raye finished in hours, just over 18. Her program, it worked. All the blueprints were done. The ship was constructed. The engineers stunned. You did it! They cheered, and her boss had to say that her quick mind for math had in fact saved the day. The end? No, not quite. When Raye's ship was unveiled, only white men could go, and Raye's invite not mailed. Say what? You heard right. No invite. Horrible. In fact, some might say it was downright deplorable. Yet, Raye kept her cool, gave her best every day, and in time, all her skills were applauded. Hooray! People learned of her work. Who's this Raye? They demanded. When they met her, they stared. They expected a man. Yes, that happened a lot. Many could not believe that a woman of color did all she'd achieved. Some even thought Raye was a mind. Some even thought Raye was a maid. Sad but true. When they ordered a drink, she'd say, "Bring me one too." All her humor and wit served her well through the years as she battled the hard times with laughs and not tears. And that boss in the Navy, who'd been so unkind, made Raye the first woman to lead ship design. More honors would follow. Her fame picked up steam, and finally, at last, she accomplished her dream. That title she'd worked for, an engineer. Score! Now the world knows her feats. She is hidden no more. Raye, Montague, engineer. So the lesson to all is don't ever give in. Take a chance. Rock the boat. If it sinks, you can swim. When a storm comes your way, hold your course and don't stress. Never quit like Raye. Propel straight to success. Dear reader, if you have a dream like I did, study hard and stay focused. Always remember that just because someone says you can't, that doesn't have to stop you. You might have to go in a different direction, and it might take you a little longer, but you can achieve your dreams. Facts and tidbits from the author's chat with Raye. Circumnavigating the norms. I didn't really like dolls, Montague said, when asked about her favorite hobbies as a child. Luckily, my mother and grandfather always encouraged my love of math, science, and thinking outside the box. They taught me there was no such thing as women's work or men's work. In high school, Montague's mother even convinced the principal to let her daughter test out of home economics. My mother was the wind beneath my wings, she said. Using her photographic memory, Montague studied the course work and was able to pass all of the exams without taking the class. She took extra math and science classes instead, paddling haters with humor. If there's one principle Montague followed throughout her career, it's that you can't let others bring you down. People say very negative things. If you let it fester, then they control you, she explained. You must always have a comeback ready, a humorous comeback that allows you to take back control of the situation. She recalled one meeting where a man attempted to order a cup of coffee, confusing her for someone who had been hired to wait on him, which happened frequently. Rather than get angry, she said, "I'll take one too. Make mine with cream and sugar." Another time, while traveling with her white colleagues, during a time when many places were still segregated, she was informed she would need to find a room at a different hotel. "That's okay. I don't need a room. Just give me a pullout and I'll sleep right here," she told the staff. Since they didn't want Montague sleeping in their lobby, they gave her the only room that they had left, the penthouse. Propelling through misperceptions. A maid and a secretary weren't the only people Montague was mistaken for over the years. Everybody just assumed I was a white man because of my name. She said I was hired many times, sight unseen, and when people met me, they couldn't believe it. When she finally received her engineer's license later on in her career, it read, "Based on her qualifications." Despite the confusion, Montague believes her parents' decision to give her a gender-neutral name was a positive, and it's a family tradition that continues. The reason my granddaughter, Riley, has an androgynous name is because my son, Dr. David Montague, saw so many doors opened for me. Montague added that her granddaughter also hopes to pursue a career in the STEM fields. She wants to find a cure for cancer. Sailing despite the storms. Though she overcame sexism and racism from many colleagues, Montague's road to success was far from easy. One of her earliest bosses in the Navy was especially hard on the young business graduate. He was really racist. Montague recalled when he came in and saw that I was female and black, I imagine he thought, oh my God, how am I going to get rid of her? Convinced she would fail, he gave her 6 months to complete a project that the Navy had been working on for 6 years, modifying a computer system to design ships. Little did I know, people had said it was an impossible goal. Montague explained, never one to balk at a challenge. She taught herself to drive and went to the office every night, working overtime on the project for free. When her boss forbid her from being there alone, she brought her mother and son with her, telling him, you said I couldn't work alone, so I'm not alone. Finally, when she believed she had perfected the system, that boss had a harsh surprise. He said, nobody's going to use it, Raye. I was devastated. That really hurt. Only 2 weeks later, things would change when President Nixon gave the Navy just 2 months to design a new ship. Montague's boss came straight to her with the task. Using her newly perfected computer program, she completed the draft in just over 18 hours. The boss fell in love with me because so much of the honor went to him, she said. After that, he opened many doors for me and really set me up to take over his position. Many years later, Montague would receive another sign of affection from her once combative superior. When he died, his wife called me and said, Raye, he asked for you to plan his funeral. I think that I changed his mind totally about racism. Anchoring a spot in history. Perhaps the most shocking example of racism in Montague's career happened not long after she completed that groundbreaking ship design. I wasn't even invited to the launch, she said. It was a despicable snub. But Montague remained confident that history would give her the credit she deserved. I felt that eventually it would come, and come it did. Yet, when asked about racism in our current society, Montague was a realist. I've made some progress. We still have a long way to go. I believe education will do it, but I still run into people who think that because I'm black, I couldn't really have done all those things. So, what did the Spitfire scientist tell all those skeptics? Google me. And here's a timeline of all of her events. And yes, she recently passed away in 2018.